We are back here on TexAgs Radio, and we've got ourselves a great guest in Paul Finebaum joining us here on the program, and we're getting him all set up here for the show, and very fortunate to get Mr. Finebaum on the program. Paul, how you doing, sir?
David, doing great. Thank you very, very much.
I appreciate you making some time for us.
I'm delighted.
So, does every fan base think you're against them?
No, just the prominent ones. But that happens, and
yeah.
And you give opinions. Most of the problems I have come from just idle comments that are out of context, and you have to live with it. I mean, I've almost been in a position this week of saying I've been misquoted, even though I said it. I was on a national show about Nick Saban, and you get an awkward question, you give an answer, somebody tweets it, it's gone. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, we're talking to Paul Finebaum here on TexAgs Radio. Paul, let's talk about Jimbo on Monday. What he said at the podium, then on your show. What was your big takeaway of everything?
So, I'm in a weird position. I was doing other interviews while he was at the podium. I had no idea what he said. I just assumed that everyone knew that Bob Petrino was calling the plays, and I just said something to him about that, and he said, yeah, and I think he said, sometimes with Jimbo, it's a little bit hard to interpret, but Lucci told me later that he did say that Bobby Petrino was going to call the plays, which was bizarre since nobody else heard him say that. I just think he was loose. It was an unconventional interview. A lot of people were texting me saying, man, it was like really weird. But I just, we had 20 minutes, just kind of, you can't just, he'd already been on at the podium. Why am I going to ask him about the quarterback situation? Why am I going to ask him about last year? So we just kind of got off onto some topics, and I think he said a lot. I really like talking to Jimbo Fisher because he's authentic. Yeah. Do people dislike him? Of course. Is everybody in Alabama still mad at him? You better believe it. But I found that statement that he made last year, I was like mesmerized by that. I've never seen a coach be real, and that's what he is. He's a real guy.
When you look at Texas A&M this year, the last few years, the inconsistencies, they get up for the Alabama game, the LSU games, but there's those lapses. Where do you see them? Where do they need to take their game this year?
I think they've got to put it all together, and I think they can. Your audience has heard Jimbo say this ad nauseum about the injuries, the close games, and it's not that big of a turn when you go from losing 7 games to maybe winning 9 or 10. I think it's very possible. And I think you also have the maturity factor. I am not the least bit concerned about the Petrino situation. In fact, it may be one of the best hires I've ever seen in college football from an assistant standpoint, because it's outside the box. And as Jimbo told me the other day, he said, "Yeah, I'm not leaving the stadium on Saturday. I mean, I'm the head coach. I'm involved in every play." And I think fans sometimes miss that point, that it doesn't matter if it's Bob Petrino or anyone else as the assistant, it still goes through the head coach.
So, if you were to point at one part that they need to fix this year, is it the line of scrimmage? Is it stopping the run? What would be your?
Yeah, no, I think that's always the problem, or has been the problem, is just giving a quarterback time. But I think Connor is a phenomenal quarterback, and I'm probably most excited about seeing some of these defensive guys, because you don't see it when you're so young. You have to learn, and all the off the field things last year I think were a tremendous factor. And what fans don't understand is that you lose a game like they did to App State, and it's not like, okay, we can take a deep breath. And I mean, you are running 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to fix things, and you can't. That's why I like with Nick Saban yesterday. So, we'll get the quarterback situation figured out. If you don't know deep down who your quarterback is going to be by media days, you're in trouble, because it's not like these guys just show up. I mean, they're watching them every day as they're outside. Having practices that coaches supposedly are not at. Of course, they're seeing every single play.
Paul, one last thing for you. Texas and Oklahoma, I feel like that's going to be the big adjustment for them. It's the every week that we talked about with A&M, but It's one thing to do it against the TCUs, the Iowa States. Is another thing with an SEC schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people tell me you don't understand what it's like to go to Ames, Iowa. Well, first of all, I don't want to go to Ames, Iowa, and I can assure you, Saturday night in Ames, Iowa, does not compare to Saturday night in Auburn, Baton Rouge, the Swamp, Knoxville. I mean, you can go 11 deep in the SEC, and you're going, oh, you think it's easy to play at South Carolina? I mean, the Big 12 is a good league, good for TCU, but this is a different world, and everyone listening and watching already knows that because you've been in the SEC for 11 years. You've seen it firsthand.
Paul, we appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Paul Finebaum.